you'll be able to get most of it anyway. I don't have a lens that gets that close. So I just bought these Viva towels because there's no pattern on them, but they're horrible. They shed worse than just cheap paper towels. So, and they're really expensive, so I'm not going to be buying those again. They got the other test prints I was doing, it got little shards of paper towel in the ink. So this is a good image to show you because it has a lot of problems with it, and you'll see them come out. There's a couple lines right here, and anyway, so there's that. And then over here, here's all my brushes. I don't use but 3 or 4 of them. And old Bostic and Sullivan brush, new one. And just experiment with different types that I get off of Dick Blick. And my roller, my brayer. There's my shaving brush one, which I really am not using too much anymore. But it's a good soft brush. And I got my ink already. I already did another print this morning. I'm also working on my show pictures, so I've been matting and framing, or just actually framing a couple pictures. Anyway, so I did a test. Whoops. I did a test on this one earlier and got my exposure time, which has been changing. Let me see. Okay. And this one was 8 minutes, and now it's 12 minutes, so adding 50%. Okay, so I have a new roller on. That's after one use, and I realize you got to throw them away after maybe 3 or 4 pictures because the ink starts to harden on the top, and then it doesn't give a very good stipple effect anymore. So I'm just rolling it and then roll it out a little bit. So it looks like I don't really have any ink on it. And I just kind of roll it on. And I'm using just a little bit of pressure, not much. And you can see, maybe you could see see those white marks? That's a little bit of water that was on the image. And then those streaks right there are not streaks in the coating, but when I wiped it down with the paper towel, it'll do that. They'll go away. I'm not worried about either of those things. I'm not worried about. Get some more ink, and I'll charge the print maybe 3 times with ink, and that means just loading my roller with ink. Now these are, I don't know what these things are, these little black lines, but they'll come out. I realize that if there's no streaks in your coating and your base exposure is good, then all these little imperfections can be easily taken out. So I don't worry about it. So that was my third. I charged my roller 3 times. The image looks horrible right now. And then that's it. And then I'm just gonna go over this image until all of the ink all these lines from the roller are gone, and all these black lines are really concerning. There's another one showing up. But everything will kind of lighten up, because right now it looks terrible. And that's such a buzzkill when you're doing this process that it takes a while to really start to see if the image is really going to be good or not. This actually looks pretty dark. So all the lines are pretty much almost gone. Yeah, this image way dark. I think I can lighten it up though. So now I'm just gonna go a little faster. And the more you do this and the faster you go, the more contrast you're gonna build. So you just kind of have to be careful with how much you do. This is really looking like a dirty plate for some reason. It's all right. So even faster. Okay. Okay, so that's it for the roller. I'm not going to use it again, so I'm just going to put it away. Everything else I'm going to do is with the brush. Okay, so you could see, let me zoom in here. See these lines? That's a silver wrinkle in the negative. That's I believe that's a fingerprint, because I was trying to pop a bubble when I poured the albumin, the subbing for the glass plate before the collodion. And there are just these little lines. Looks like I did it twice. This was a really early negative, so it's kind of dirty. These are new right there, these black lines, but those can come out. That's not that big of a deal. So now I'm going to do my brush work and just take it's been cleaned, and I clean them every time I use them. So in a dark area without any ink on my brush, I could pull, see how easy I could pull ink off of the shadows. So it really shouldn't be hard. Here's her hair. I pulled some ink off of that. So you can really play with the ink right now. If it was overexposed, I think you wouldn't be able to really pull the ink out of it. But it looks like it's a little dark, but it's not bad. I've got a hair right there. Is that a hair? Get off. I don't know what that is. Yeah, that's a hair. I don't know why that's not coming on. Just wipe it off. Get out of there. Okay. So I'm going to put a little bit of ink on. And then I'm just going to go in the margin a little bit just to tap some off. And then just kind of, and I'm just hitting flat, even though it has that angle on it. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can see this, but I don't like to hit the top and then like push down. I like to hit it straight on, because I'm essentially just looking for that texture. like that stipple effect texture. So see these little dark lines, whatever they are, coming out. I don't know what those were. And I want this image to be kind of light, like a very bright, light image. So as you can see, I only went into my ink one time, and I'm gonna pretty much do this whole, almost this whole image just with that one dip. I might go back in a little bit to darken up areas, but you can see, I don't know if you can see the difference. Sorry, my lighting right now is really bad. But here's the roller texture right there, and then there's brush texture right there. And the brush texture is just so much nicer. I mean, it's what, I just went over this with the brush, and it's just that nice soft stipple effect that I like. These white lines I'm actually not going to touch up until the paper dries because they're white and they're swollen. This black area I'm going to try to deal with right now. But yeah, so just come through. And this black line right here, I'm not really able to tap it out. So I'm gonna wait until the print dries, and I'm just getting excess ink off on a paper towel. And then I'm just gonna scratch it out. And I really like using an X-Acto knife. I find are the best thing to use. So I think I like this nice hat. I like this just bright white, you know. Get out of there. And I just come in and then you kind of start working tones a little bit. You know, like her face is a little too, here, I'll show you that again. This is too white and contrasty right there. So I'm going to take my brush and then just kind of gently press it down and see the ink deposit. See the mustache I left her? See the ink deposit there? So you find your touch, and you can easily, you know, blend in a tone, different tones by how lightly you let me clear that. You do that. So, you know, or how quickly you daub. So this right now is paper white. It's super contrasty right there. So I'm just going to go in and lightly touch and leave some color. So now I just took that out. I want to build some density with her hair a little bit, just a little bit. I want this image still to be really soft. I'm going to take out more ink up here. This was done with a lens that I made from a magnifying glass that I bought at Ace. And some of them you could use and they look great, and some of them not so much. So I was lucky. This was a good one. Okay, so I want to build up a little bit of density right there. So I'll just continue to use this brush. I'm going to get a little bit of ink. And just work the tip of it. So see how much darker her hair is now. Now there's ink on her face and there's ink over in this hat. So I'm just gonna use my paper towel, tap off the extra, and then just use the side of the brush. Oops. I gotta turn this. There we go. Okay. And then this part of her hair I want to do, and I could use a smaller brush, but I don't really have a really nice smaller brush, so I tend to just use this. And then when it's surrounded by white, it's easy to do because that ink is not really going to stick. And then of course, if you want to add density, just go nice and slow and press straight down like that, right? So I can either just tap out this stuff, or I can just wipe it really with my brush, because it's the base white paper color. Right. So little things that you want to highlight. Let's see if I can lighten this up a little bit. So right here under her lip, she's got that crazy shadow. So some of my favorite brushes to use for removing ink, this one's super cheap. Like this is maybe a 99-cent pack of 3 type brush. And then this one is domed brush. It's Da Vinci, which I got from Dick Blick's, which I really love. But this one gives a better stipple effect, so I can come in and just kind of gently blend that a little bit better. And just take it out, so it's just not so, I mean, it'll be there a little bit, but I wanted to reduce it just so you couldn't, it kind of blends in a little easier, doesn't really stand out. So, and then other things like, you know, if we wanted to add, where's that brush? Maybe a little bit, darken her lips a little bit. And it's better to go in with no ink than with too much ink. So some of these brushes I'll ink them and then I'll wipe off like all of the ink, and then just go in and then see how it looks, and then just slowly build it up. Because when you work with you work in little areas, and if you add too much ink, then it's going to take forever to have to even out all of the tones and everything that you need to even out. So it's better to go in and do nothing at all than to make a mess. So the only thing I don't like about this brush is the hairs are so close together that when you go in to touch up, you kind of soften that part of the picture. So I'll have to go back in with my brush and just kind of touch it a little bit just to even it out. Okay. And I think I wanted to do a little bit on their hat. Okay. So this is all base white, her hat and everything. So I can just wipe off down here. I'm just gonna kind of wipe that. And you can add, you know, like you can kind of add flair, you know, with brush strokes, you know, showing brush strokes. I do that on some of my images. That one didn't look very good, so I'm just going to cover that back up. But you'll never go wrong by putting almost no ink on your brush and then just slowly tapping it. Don't drag it, just up and down, just tap it. And that's the way I do it. It's just, it's easy to control. You're not putting too much ink on at once. And you can just go in and just erase stuff or add stuff or do whatever. It's just, it's fun. I didn't think this print was gonna look good. It wasn't inking up with the roller very well. So, and little things like, if there's little debris and stuff and it's in a delicate area, I'll just tend to leave it and let it dry and then scratch it off and then touch it up. So I don't get too crazy with cleaning my picture 100% before it dries, because sometimes you'll make more of a mess. There's that button right there. I kind of want that to stand out a little more, so we'll pop in a little bit of ink. You can work an image too much too, so it's kind of ooh, where's my other? I'll shoot another one. I have another test print coming out here in a second. So I don't like her chin's a little bright. Okay. So on this one, there's that little black line right there. I think I'm going to leave that and take that out later. Because when you start going in and constantly in the same spot, you know, I put too much ink on, now I'm going to pound it out. Now it's too bright. You start to build like a real contrast that tends to get hard to remove entirely. So there are these little white dots right there that I'm going to touch up when the print dries down. I'm not gonna mess with it. So see, I put too much ink right there. So I'll just come in with my brush, just flat. My brush is entirely flat, and just take it out. Okay. So I guess the thing is you really can overwork an image. So I like this one. There's not a lot of density. There's not a lot of there's contrast, but it's not crazy. Okay, so I'm gonna try to take this out. So the white ones I'm leaving, I'll touch up later. So here's the other one. Oh, I might have gotten the other one. So I think what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to wait for it to dry, because that ink didn't come out. The tones, it's kind of in a whitish area. I don't know, let me get a smaller brush. It's hard to tell too, because it's indented in the image, so it's hard to know, like, did you get it or not, because you could still see it because of the impression it leaves. But, so that, if it focuses, that's about as far as I'll go. Let me see if I can. So that's pretty good. I mean, you can still see it, but once it dries down flat, I'll be able to either add ink to it to smooth it out, or get the X-Acto knife to remove. And that will come out easily. I can probably show you that in another video. I bought these to do touch-up, and I wouldn't recommend them unless the print is completely dry. But it just takes too much ink off at once, and it kind of smudges. But the very best way of doing it is with the tip of an X-Acto knife. And you just have to go in there and just gently, just kind of almost cross hatch. Like I'm going to cross hatch, I won't do it while the gelatin's swollen, but I'm going to go in and cross hatch that, and it'll be gone, you won't even know it's there. So that's the image. This black line right here I'm going to take out after it dries. There's this little black spot on the nose. I'll take that out when it dries. This came back. I'm going to take out that shadow again. And then that line, that's going to be hard to do, but hopefully I'll be able to do it because it's a straight line. That one's going to be rough. But I've done it once. So that's the image. It's a very soft focus. What is it, a meniscus lens? Is that what they're called? But it's one of my favorite images. I really like it. Okay. Whoa, that was 27 minutes.